Good morning, everybody. Pastor Stitch, Narrow Path Christian Church, BC, Bay City, Michigan. Welcome to the Biker Devotional. Today is July 23rd, 2023. We will be starting at verse 10 in Proverbs 23. Don't move an ancient boundary marker, and don't encroach on the fields of the fatherless. For their Redeemer is strong, and he will take up their cause against you. You know, so many times we, good morning, Rhonda, good morning, Shane. So many times we think about those things and we think of it only in the ancient language, meaning, well, the boundary markers marked properties for families, and if you moved it 50 feet, you'd gain more land, and then a couple years later you move it another 50 feet and you gain more land. And if somebody's not paying attention, before long you've got a huge increase in your property, and that's a big deal, right? But what's that look like today? It can be as simple as having a friendly conversation with someone, and you're sharing ideas back and forth, and you're really enjoying the conversation, both of you, and you're learning from each other, and you're growing, and it's great. And then one day, as you're working along and you realize that one of those ideas is really beneficial for you in a way that could increase your profit margin, you decide to implement it and market it as your own. Now, it seems harmless. You're using it and you're running with it, and it's great, except for that is the same thing as encroaching on the fields of the fatherless or moving a boundary marker. And Solomon reminds us, as he was reminding his sons, as he was reminding himself, the Redeemer is strong, and the case will get brought. And then he reminds you and I, his sons and himself, this in verse 12. Apply yourself to instruction and listen to the words of knowledge. You know, there are times where I know things and I don't remember where I got them from, and I apply them, and then somebody comes along later and tells me that that was their idea. And if I reject it outright and say, no, it was mine, I am holding on to pride. I may never remember the conversation, but if the person told me that they had the conversation with me, and more than likely, if I'm actually being honest and having that conversation with me, I start to remember, right? And then I need to give credit where credit is due, because that is where the discipline comes in. That is where the instruction comes in. That's where the words of knowledge come in. And if I do the right thing, even after the fact, the Redeemer will see that. You know, there are times where fields butt together. Property lines are hard to see, and a farmer may not purposely run 12 rows into the other field, but it ends up happening because the other field isn't being used for a season, or the family's run into a hard time and they're not doing anything with the field, and so the other farmer is right next to it, and he's not paying attention to the boundary marker. But when it's brought to his attention, the right thing to do is to pay for the land he used, or to give that crop to that family, or to do whatever is right in that situation. we need to recognize those things in our own lives. Now, maybe your boundary markers are very vague and you don't know. It happens to me on occasion. You know, there are times where I preach a sermon and I say, I heard this and it's really good and I'm going to share it with you. And I wish I remembered where I got it from. I did it just this week when I was talking about the fact that I had heard someplace. I don't know if it was on the news or another pastor or I read it in a devotional. I just don't know. But the person said, I look at the past only to deal with the present situation. I don't go back and look at the past to live there, and I don't go look at the past to bring it forward. I go back to look at the past so that I have insight to deal with the present situation. And that was really good, and I wish I could remember who said it, because if I could, I'd give them the credit for it. In a situation like this, I'm stuck. But I'm giving credit where credit's due, and if I had a name, I'd give it to as well. Sometimes it's just easier to say it wasn't my idea, because the Redeemer is strong and he will take up the case against you. It's better to own our place and what we have and what we know than it is to be adamant and take a defensive posture because we think we can win. Just something to think about for today. I love y'all. Hope you have a great day. God bless.